Welcome back, everybody. IGN Live from Comic-Con, presented by the all-new LG G4. I'm Damon Hatfield. This is Eric Goldman. And from The Walking Dead, we have Andrew Lincoln, Melissa McBride, and Scott Gimple. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Hello.
Hey.
You guys, you've done Comic-Con so many times now. You're just like, it's Comic-Con. Or when you get here, do you feel that energy? And it's okay. This is Comic-Con.
Yeah, I still get nervous. I mean, before the panel yesterday, 7,000 people, and you'd be weird if you didn't. I think. But it is an amazing time, particularly in our calendar, that we've been shooting for 5-6 episodes, and it's the first time we can show what we've been up to.
Mm-hmm. And you had a new trailer, went over very well. Is it great for you guys? Because you're out in Atlanta, I visited the set once, and I knew how brutal and hot it can be, long days. When you come here and you see that reaction when you show new footage?
Yeah, it's really fun because we know that the fans are waiting. You know, they have, we see things on social media like, we need therapy. We can't wait another 3 months for the next season to start. So it's fun to come here and show them, look what we've been working on for you. You know,
we've got some cool stuff for you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about where we left off, Scott, and where we're going. I mean, it was interesting. The end of the season kind of subverted expectations by not blowing up the dynamic. You know, they because your show has obviously moved around a bunch, but they're still in the same place. There's been certainly some issues, and there's some growing issues out there. But when we come back, especially considering what this guy just tried to pull and everything, what's the power structure like in this community as we come back from this season?
I think the hard part for the end of last season for Rick was not like, oh my God, am I going to get kicked out of here? It was very much like, oh my God, am I going to have to kill a lot of people?
Yeah.
And Carol had said, like, hey, you want to tell the truth and you don't want to kill people, you don't get both. By the end, circumstance had allowed Rick to demonstrate, hey, I know what I'm doing, by dropping these walkers at everybody's feet. And everything was going to be just this incredible happy ending.
Right?
Oops.
And he shot a man in the face.
Yes.
Yeah. Covered in blood. Yeah. And that's when he sees Morgan for the first time in some time. And Morgan looks like the picture of health. And Rick, looks...
Had a zombie shower.
Yes.
Zombie shower.
You like to, taking Rick, I thought was really interesting last season was taking Rick and almost, being like, is he becoming that which he fears the most? Because he's had very good reasons not to trust strangers. Certainly, because time and again they've proved that there's been certain people who've proven to be untrustworthy or much worse. But then it's like, oh, is Rick and at certain points Carol too? Are they becoming that? Becoming those insidious characters? Did you like kind of playing with how far gone is Rick, and is that still a question this season?
Well, I just think he's a product of his environment. They've also, as you said, they've suffered so much. They've been through so much trauma, and he's a pragmatist, and he's kept his family, his extended, apocalyptic family alive for so long. And I think more towards the end of last season, the last 3 or 4 episodes, he was a man restraining himself for the sake of his children and these people and possibly a future. I think towards the end, he just lost his patience and just said, it's my way or the highway. Now, come on, pull your shit together.
Right.
And I think he's justified doing that, too.
Okay.
The world was telling him to, though. He was restraining himself because he wanted to stay there. But then by the end, he was like, oh, wait, no, I need to make this a place worth staying.
Mm-hmm. And Carol, in the midst of this, she's proven to be extremely tough character now. We've seen her change a lot. Last season, there was a lot of stuff going on with this child. I don't know if befriended is the right word at first, because, gosh, we were thinking things could go really sour. What was it like for you to play those scenes? Because we've seen how, Ruth, not that it hasn't taken a huge toll on her. It's not like she's unemotional, but were you wondering where are they going to go? How far will they go?
There was, when I read that script, and it was getting very dark as she was talking to Sam. Even I fell into it. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. And I was like, oh God, she's going dark. Is she going dark? I was like, don't worry. So, I read it again, and I understood exactly what was going on. Not stepping out of character for Carol, otherwise it wouldn't have made any sense.
Yeah.
So that's how I figured out how to play it, and I understood why she was doing this immediately, because that's Carol.
Yeah.
That was the only way she was going to be able to get it without her cover being blown.
If she has to, we'll see. Morgan is interesting because this is a character that goes back to the pilot, and yet we've only seen him here and there. What was it like for you now, 6 years in, to really bring him into the show and to show what he'd be like in this group dynamic?
We got very lucky with with Lenny's availability.
Yeah.
Because there were some plans that I had to possibly get Morgan there quicker.
Right.
But I love how it all turned out. And it was because Lenny was busy with another project. But we got to have him be a part of season 5 to sort of set up everything that we're doing in season 6. And because of that, on the writing side, we got to get ahead of season 6 and do some of the writing beforehand. So it was cool.
We actually have a question from one of our viewers from Twitter that we can pull up here. This comes from Mick. If you had to die, how would you want to go out on the show?
What would you want Rick's big moment to be?
You know, I don't care how I go, as long as the kid kills me, I suppose.
Really? Yeah.
Oh,
And then if the
really?
kid kills me, I want them to play "Hurt" by Johnny Cash.
Wow. It's a very specific request you got here.
That's like specific.
He's thought
You've been
about this.
thinking about
I had a
this.
little think about it, while he was asking the question.
What about you? What do
You know,
what
I
Carol,
don't know.
If she was to have that.
I don't know. I don't like to think about
Bungee
that because the
jumping.
writers are really fun.
We're
But
just eating just way too many cookies. Just like
right, she's hoarding.
Right. People are very into the whole concept of her as the, especially when she had to sort of pretend to be back to this domestic person and knowing what an artifice it was now. Was that really fun for you to play? Because the audience loved it to see when
Hugely fun, and the more masks, the merrier. And I think that's one of her weapons, is her adaptability.
in the town, you know, obviously we've gotten to know a lot of the people in the town now, but on the show, always there's the human element as far as threats concerned, and we've had this growing one out there last year. Can you talk about this season? We're going to think that's going to come to a head at some point. How much will that come in?
The threat you're talking about, like the wolves.
The W's.
Yes, I like the click.
Yeah, thank you.
The wolves are actually going to, I mean, they will play into the season, but in an unusual way. And even, I think, when the audience sees initially how they play into the season, it's not the whole story. And I'm very excited. It very much has to do with dynamics between characters, how it plays out. And it's sort of threaded into a long story, actually. So.
And in the town, you know, because this group have been traveling together a long time, some of them a very long time, but then we saw that when they got to this town, the very different reactions they all had, and you know, your characters being some of the most suspicious or wary. Will that continue? Because, you know, you had the moment like Michonne choosing to knock you out at that moment and whatnot.
Yeah, it was bullshit. I hated that scene. And she hit me in the head as well. Yeah.
Well, you had to go
She
big in
really
that
hit him
scene.
in the head.
She really hit me on the head.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to tell you, that was, I think, some of the finest acting you did on the show. And then it comes to this like incredibly abrupt halt. You know, you're doing this very powerful monologue, and then you drop below frame. It's sort of.
It was exciting. Was it funny?
No,
No.
because
That's a good sign.
No, I think it was just, it was a, whoa.
Oh, you felt it was
felt
funny.
it was-
All right,
it
we
was
might need
kind
to
of-
discuss this, but
Yeah.
Was it funny?
Funk.
when we pulled
made
out
that
the sound
sound really
effect,
good.
I was gonna say, you almost,
Yeah.
originally you had the Roadrunner sound effect.
yeah,
when you
and
got-
the laugh track, and that really kind of
Right.
but
We're like,
when we
maybe
pulled it,
this-
it got very serious.
Maybe this doesn't work tonally. At this point, now that you're on this long, and the show just keeps growing, the success-wise, you know, have you stopped trying to figure out what it is, or what do you think it is that's locked in with people in such a mainstream way? Because there's a version where this show is a hit, but in I think of, you know, it's a hit show, not what it's become culturally. What do you think it is at this point that made it so big?
I don't know, man. I mean, that's the true answer is that. You know, if you want me to talk in front of camera, I'll make something up. But the truth is, the first time I came to Comic-Con, I remember feeling nauseous and bent double, waiting for the trailer to be seen. I was at the side of a wall, and I just felt terribly sick and weird. And then I heard the roar after the first 20 minutes that, you know, from the audience, and I collapsed. And I just thought, oh, we're getting it right, you know. And I think at that point we realized that we handed the show over to you guys, to the fans, this place. And perhaps that's all it is. We have a very discerning, loyal, amazingly opinionated, beautiful, loving group of people that, you know, seem to dig this show and care about it and talk about it as much as we love doing it. And I like to think that it kind of fuels itself, you know. And there's also, I have to mention, a crew that has been with us from its infancy, that give blood, sweat and tears every single 17-hour day in the Georgia heat all through the summer, and they feel just as proud about what they're making as we do. So I think
the crew are fans.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
Like when the scripts get into their hands, they gobble them up, and they have lots of questions and lots of theories. Our set is just constant theories on what's going to happen next.
Oh, yeah.
With fans. And also, a lot has to be said to this gentleman here who has had no sleep for the last 5 years, you know, and he is an astonishing talent and keeps pushing the show and understands the genre better than anybody I've ever met apart from Frank Darabont. And you know, and he is an uber fan and a rare talent, and we love him very, very much.
You guys, thank you
bless
so
you.
much for coming by the show.
Wow, dear.
Can't wait to see what's next for Walking Dead.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of
Thank
people
you.
watching, I think. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Stay tuned. More to come from IGN Live here from Comic-Con after this.
You're making me blush here.
IGN Live at Comic-Con is presented by Marvel's Ant-Man, in theaters July 17th.